Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. I'm excited for today's episode. We are talking to the owner of Digital Speaker Agent. And what he does is he helps speakers get on more stages so more people can hear the message, learn from experience, and improve lives. Super excited to be rocking out today with Glenn Freezman. Hey, Glenn, you ready to rock?
I am ready to rock. How you doing this morning, Tim?
I'm doing excellent this morning. We always start off on a good note, so tell me a story of success we can be inspired by.
I want to give you a crazy story that happened 13 years old,
Yes.
which was a through line of my entire life. In a nutshell, uh, family went bankrupt for the third time. Cars are in repossession. House is on foreclosure. I'm a latchkey kid playing basketball at the JCC. Literally lived there from 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock when the school let out through 9 o'clock at night when I get picked up. Playing ball one day and clink it off the rim, and I hear somebody yell from the other court, "Hey, little help." I reach down, I look up, I'm 13 years old, I'm only 5'5". I need a center at all times to be able to play and get into big games.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up that this guy, he asked me, I said, "What are you doing here every day?" He says, "What are you doing here every day?" I thought, "I'm a latchkey kid, here's what I do." I said, "I have nothing. This is just where I hang out." I said, why are you here every day?" He said, "I'm just a vendor." I said, "What do you vend?" He said, "Philadelphia soft pretzels." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Where do you sell them?" He said, "From parade routes from Maine to Virginia. And every Philadelphia Phillies game, Eagles games, Sixers games, Flyers games, the parade routes all up and down the East Coast, as well as uh, concerts and parade and circus. Anywhere there's venue, we're selling pretzels." I'm 13, we're broke. Tim, I say to him, "Where do you sell them? How much do your guys make? I have to go do this with you." He says, "Glenn, I don't know you." He says, "And there's no way I'm allowing a 13-year-old to come do what you're doing." I said, "Mitch, I need the job. I can do this." He comes over, he meets with my parents. And I said, basically, "I will give up my childhood for my adulthood, because I am not going to do what my father did."
Hmm.
So I ended up getting very, very lucky very, very early on by meeting a very, very street smart pretzel guy.
Wow.
And it changed my life. And literally I like to say his lessons were salty. He was a pretzel guy. His lessons were salty, his lessons were hard, and his lessons were twisted. But it set me up for a lifetime of success, because I got to hang out with people when I was 13 who were obviously resilient,
Yeah.
resourceful, selling magic air, pretzels. And it ended up that through our stories today, hopefully we'll get to some of the great stories, but he changed 3 generations, because at the time that we needed it most, which was about 30 days into our relationship of me selling pretzels, and I'm talking every night taking a subway to the Phillies games,
Mm-hmm.
and we worked a few parade routes, I had heard, Tim, that overnight that they were taking the house, and we were done. And we were in Dundalk, Maryland that Saturday working a parade route. And after the day, I made my $150 cash. And he said, "Glenn, you're off today. What's wrong?" And I told him this story. And I said, "Mitch, here's the deal. I need $13,500 today. And I already did the math. And if you give me that money, I will have you paid off in 2 years, and I'll give you 10% interest."
Hmm.
And he said, "Glenn, I will give you the money, no interest. I control the money. We can learn a lot." He gave me cash that day, which I came home, as I did every other night that I came home from work. But normally I put $25 on the kitchen table. This time I put 13,500 and went to bed. That one act from Mitch changed my life, changed my parents' life. And because of what I learned for the next 5 years working for him, of which time I sold 500,000 soft pretzels,
Wow.
changed my kid's life, because it set me up with the lessons that I learned while doing it for a lifetime of success.
Wow.
That would be
Wow.
that would be the greatest story that happened to me that I've told numerous amount of times, and I'm still friendly with him. He's a professional. Now he professionally plays cards the Borgata,
Okay. Wow.
and still hustling on the streets. Still an incredible mentor. Still an incredible friend.
Wow. That's an incredibly good mentor and incredibly lucky that you were able to just be there at that time, right? Right place,
Right.
right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You know,
Good
and
for
and
you.
and as a 13-year-old, I had no idea what you were allowed to say, not allowed to say. There was no, which is one of my through lines of life, no inventor's remorse.
Yep.
I didn't know
Yep.
what couldn't be done, so I didn't know what I couldn't ask. So at
Yep.
13 years old saying, listen, I need $13,500. People said to me, at 13, you've asked that question? Well, yeah, because I knew what was happening at home. There was no other choice.
Yep. Yeah, you're not
You
living
know?
within a box, right? Like I know that comes up in music sometimes as well, where they talk about the Beatles actually is one of the examples, and the way that history goes is that Paul was the educated one. He had some musical experience, and John was not. He just kind of went by feel. And the things that he would come up with would be out of the box. It'd be things that he didn't know he wasn't supposed to do, right? And isn't that interesting? As kids, like we don't know what we don't know, and I always think, isn't it amazing how these kids learn so fast? Well, they don't know they're not supposed to learn that fast,
Right.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and when you think about when people say to me, well, who was your mentor or something like that, I think everybody that has ever spoken to me has come into my life for that particular second,
Yeah.
and good or bad, they have mentored me.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. We can learn a lot from a bad example.
Yeah.
It all depends how we disseminate it, right? And how and what we end up with from everything that we interact with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in a lot of ways we learn a lot more from our bad from our bad experiences than we do
Yeah.
from our good ones.
Yeah.
Which is why we do talk about the bad notes. So I mean, can you tell me something that didn't go as planned? Like what's the biggest mistake that you made on the journey?
Yeah, I will tell you that I got into the title insurance business when I started my real life, let's
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
And there was a piece of the title insurance that I thought it would be very, very cool. Now, this goes back 25 years ago. So before the internet and
Wow.
before Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Because people don't understand it. You and I am older than Google. And people are going, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
I'm older
too.
than the internet,
Hmm.
because people just think it's been around forever and ever.
Hmm.
So prior to Wi-Fi, I owned a title insurance company, and I was tired of my people having to leave to go to drive to someone's house or to drive to an appointment to sign papers. I thought it'd be really cool to have like a ability to sign papers over a trunk line,
Right. Yeah.
which is the precursor, which would be strong enough, and spent a lot of money and spent a lot of time designing what was called That Settles It, because it was for the settlement portion of our title insurance. And we were doing a lot of deals, and my people were just running around. And I thought to myself, if we could solve an hour up and an hour back and not have my people be out of the office 3 hours, but only 1 hour, I could do 3 times the amount of settlements. Plus, I believed that all the customers would love it. And
Hmm.
Tim, I was dead on right. The problem was that I learned that there was nothing that was impossible as long as that's what you wanted to do. So I went off on my merry way because this was my first real life opportunity. It wasn't just hustling and grinding, on the streets.
Yeah.
So I basically built everything, and I did it in what I now consider ready, fire, aim. I just didn't use the correct order.
Hmm.
So I got ready and I opened and was partnered with a company called Madge Networks at the time, which was owned by Sony.
Okay.
So we could get the trunk lines run into certain office complexes that were very large. So those people could come to an office complex and we could phone right into that office complex and run the paperwork with them.
Right on.
Well, the part I missed was that the notary which I believed was there to make sure that the customer understood the documents and that Tim was really Tim, right? That Tim Melanson, when you showed
Yep.
up, you were really you.
Yep.
However, the second part of that, which is buried deep in, is that you are not under any duress while you are signing these documents. The president of the National Notary Association out in California, I get a call from him saying, you can't do what you're doing. And I said, why? He said, because you have no way of knowing, number one, who these people are. And I said, yes, I do, because our technology shows that they can hold their license up to the screens. We wrote the technology back 25 years ago that would read that strip and know who you were and go right into your, what they now call this wallet questionnaire. You know, when they ask you questions that only you would know?
Yeah.
I said, and it's way stronger than me just sitting there. Plus, the threat is, Tim, I have you on film. If you are not you while you're signing these papers, good luck telling this to the judge. I have you on film. I have you dead to rights. I've cut out that fraud. He said, but how do I handle duress? I said, there's a 3-day right of rescission. I said, every time someone signs a mortgage, right, there's 3 days that they can rescind that mortgage. These were second mortgages, so there was a 3-day right of rescission. I said, so you're telling me that the bad guy's hiding behind the door for 3 days? He said, I'm telling you, you're not doing it. We're going to shut you down.
Wow.
And I was in the middle of a very successful title insurance and didn't do what I would normally do and what I've done my whole life and say, I'm glad you told me that. Now I'm going to beat you at that. Right? You taught me what the miss is, so now I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But because I was successful doing something else, I didn't poke the bear. 2 years later, the National Notary Association changed the laws to read that the duress was out and that remote closings were now available. And guess who was the founder of that company? The president of the National Notary Association.
Of course it was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So that one I would say is something that because of the way I'm wired, which is, hey, this is a great idea, make it happen now, was a big lesson early on that said you have to at least, you can't rush time and you can't fight the law unless you're powerful enough to have the law changed on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a huge one.
Wow.
But now if you look, so it dragged along, and if the laws changed in Virginia, that Virginia became in America a national notary remote closing network.
Wow.
Because they were the first state that allowed it. So every remote closing was happening would use a remote closer sitting in Virginia. It was my exact business plan.
Wow.
Closings today are done that way because COVID made it sexy.
Yeah.
It never became mainstream. It was always, well, we don't like this, we don't like it. You know how it works. And then all of a sudden something happens and everyone goes, yeah, we think we could do that.
Yeah, we got no other choice.
We have no other choice now, so now we'll allow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And then they
was
realized
it,
how good it was.
right.
Yeah.
I was proud of the fact that I was part of it and I made something happen, but I didn't really get anything out of it other than the try
Yeah.
and swing at the bat. And to know that deep down, I know who started this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the guy literally took your idea
Yeah.
and just implemented it himself because he had the power to change those rules where he could have
Right.
done that for you. Right.
Well, he could have, but that's not, but I know where I'm at in life.
Yeah.
And I don't really care what he is in life, but I know where I ended up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I do believe in karma. So I think that things happen the way they're supposed to. Right.
Yeah. I believe so.
Now,
I believe so.
Now I like the way you think about mentorship, like meaning that everybody that you meet is teaching you something. And I'm wondering if we can take that a little bit further. Like do you hire coaches? Do you have masterminds? Like what do you do anything structured when it comes to mentoring?
For me, every time I interview any speaker, it's going to be, let's say, working as within my new company, they all bring their own little slice of what it is that they're selling on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this passive ability to speak to every one of my people who pay me to be on my system. I have an incredible ability to learn from every one of what they go out and teach internationally to groups all over the world. And each one of them have a nugget in there, every single one of them. And I'm a huge believer, again, that knowledge is every place. So I don't have one particular, because I think that there's too much good that can come from too many people. And I think one of the big problems that I have with what's going on in the world today is that everyone's source of truth is whoever they spoke to last.
Yeah.
I would rather know 100 people's truth and then make up my own mind.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I find that, I mean, not to get into those weeds too much because it's very charging, but yeah, there's everybody's kind of created their own little echo chambers and their own little bubbles where, you know, the people that they're listening to and they're talking to are the ones that think exactly the way that they think. And therefore, you know, and then the misinformation runs wild in that circle, right? I'm the same way as you. I'm not the type that's gonna go, "Oh, if you know, if you like this guy, delete me," right? Which you see people doing all the time. I'm like, no, I want to have this breadth of people that I can connect with, right? I like having all these different ideas, and then I can make my own idea up. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Right. And then you tell to somebody, and that becomes their source of truth.
hmm yeah,
You know, I love the idea that there's so much going on. I mean, it makes it very difficult, and we won't get into it. I understand where we're not going with this conversation, but
yeah.
it does make it difficult to understand the truth. It really does. So,
Yeah.
but as far as the mentors go, my strongest one again goes back to when I was 13. The lesson that I learned at that literally were my through line.
Yeah.
The way I started DSA today, or not today, the way I started DSA, which is digital speakers agent, goes back to this mentor, Mitch, who I'll give you a great story. I owed him $13,500. The deal was that if I made $100 on a day, he was keeping 80 of it. I would get 20. He taught me this thing called the 80-20 rule as 13 years old. That any time in life, if you don't end up like your father, every paycheck you make, bank 80%, live off of 20%. You'll never be like your father. Start it today, and when we get up to being 21, you'll have money, and that money will keep going. When you get married, go to 30%. Buy a house, 40%. Have kids, 50%. Have a second kid, 60%. Kid goes to college, 50%. Another kid goes to college, 40%. And back it in and back it out, but always pay yourself first. You've heard this lesson a billion times.
I have, yeah.
Pay yourself first. He was in control of all of that. He would pick me up from school on a Friday, and basically I went back to his house. We would work whatever event was Friday night, and then the parade route Saturday and Sunday. We wake up on a Saturday morning, and I'm at his house, and I knock on his door. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I go, Mitch, what are we doing? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Where are we? Why are you still sleeping?
Yeah.
He goes, we're not selling anything today. Well, there's no parades. I go, Mitch, there's got to be something to sell. Something. He's all right. Grab the Daily News and figure it out. Now, Mitch had 8 words that changes the landscape, and for me, changed everything. What do you see? What do they want? They were the 8 words I had to live by. What do you see? What do they want? So basically, I had to go into a newspaper and find somewhere to sell something today. So I said, Mitch, there's a Temple football game. Small college at the time, 40 years ago, very small stadium. He says, all right, we'll go there. We get dressed, 12 o'clock game. We drive over to the stadium. We're walking, and I said, Mitch, we have nothing to sell. We didn't get the pretzels. He said, we don't order pretzels before. We don't get pretzels. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, then what are we doing here? He said, we'll figure it out. We walk into the stadium, and we're walking around the concourse, and everything is closed. because there's only 2,000 people at this football game. We're sitting we're walking around now the stands on one of where you can walk around the entire stadium. And he asked me, what do you see? What do they want? What do you see? What do they want? And so I see 2,000 people. What do they want? Watch the football game. Great. We can't make any money from that. What do you see? What do they want? What do you see? Well, I see 2,000 people. What do they want? Well, there's nowhere for them to eat. There's no food because all the concourses were closed. What do you see? What do they want? Well, now I see that there are 4 stands that they could buy something, which is on the 2 ends of the end zone, on both sides of the end zone.
Yeah.
What do you see? What do they want? Well, they obviously don't want to get out of their seat and go stand behind the end zone where now they can't see anything going on with the game. They probably want to, what do you see? What do they want? They want someone to bring them the food. Exactly. Let's go do that. Now, street smarts pretzel guy. We have nothing. I said, how are we going to follow me and don't laugh? Just play your role. He's 6'5", by the way. So he's, overpowering. He goes down to the southwest portion of the end zone. And he says to the guy for the end zone, and there's only 4 stands, we were just sent over from the east-north side, and we need soda. We got to have soda right now. You got to give me 3 cases of soda. They hand us soda. We went to the next stand, and same story, but we needed cups. And then we went to the next stand, same story, we needed ice. They were selling the soda for $1 a piece. We now have 200 sodas, 200 cups, and ice. We go through, he says, what do you want to sell these for? I said, well, we're delivering them. We might as well sell them for more than $1. He says, okay, let's sell them for $3. We walked through, we sold we have $600 now, literally out of thin air. Because because we had the ability to find money everywhere. That was his lesson. The cool part of the story is that now it's halftime and we're sitting at the 50-yard line. We're watching a football game. Halftime. They're doing a 50-50 rally to raise money for the school. He says, Glenn, how much money did we make today? I said, 600. He said, okay, what about the cost of the goods? I said, we didn't pay for that. He said, someone paid for that. I said, okay, then we made 400. He said, great. Give me 150. So I gave him 150. He took 150 and he put 300 into the bucket. I said, oh, that's cool, miss. So we can double our money, right? He goes, no, that was our donation. We have to pay for the goods that we just took.
Absolutely.
What I'm not going to teach you is how to be a thief. I'm going to teach you that there's opportunity everywhere. Keep your eyes and your ears wide open and do the right thing. Yeah, we didn't steal their soda. We borrowed it. We taught them, you have a better way of selling this. And he literally, we donated that money. So he didn't put his money on anything. So no one ever called the raffle. So they got to keep the money because they must have picked one of our tickets. Okay? Yeah. But then he went back to the guy who runs those concessions. And he said, listen, my little buddy here and I ran doing a little test. And you could sell 3 times the amount of soda at triple the price if you just take your product and walk it through those stands. That's mentorship. Wow. That's mentorship, not only in business, but in life. Wow. Every deal I have ever made, Tim, everybody had to win. Everybody. Wow.
And now they all do it.
Now they all, right. And now they all do. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. And now they all do it.
Yeah.
But again, money everywhere. So that's pure mentorship. Giving yourself to somebody without the expectation of a return.
Wow. Man, so many lessons in that. Now, what about practicing? Because like, how do you hone a craft like that? Like, it's so random, right? Like, is there something that like, did he teach you any lessons about getting good and staying good at what you're doing?
It's funny you say that because I think all the lessons I ever taught were just by watching. Mm. I'm watching guys and he would hire, most of the guys played basketball with or he grew up with. And they were from people who were, like me, almost homeless, to attorneys that just needed extra cash. So, in a 4-hour ride, and I'm 13, listening to people who are 25 to 30 talk about their lives and about what's happening and how they're succeeding and just soaking that in.
Yeah.
You don't need to be, there doesn't need to be a quiz to learn what have you learned. What do you see? What do you want? So let's move forward. And now I get the opportunity after I sold the 500,000 soft pretzels, went to college, paid for my own college, paid for my own car from the pretzel money.
Wow.
Because let me back up for a second. At 16, well, I was 15 and 364 days old when we're driving to a parade where he goes, by the way, if you had any car within reason that you wanted to buy, what would it be? I said, Oldsmobile Forenza. They were $6,500. He says, well, we're driving by the Pitcairn dealership. Why don't we go take a look at that on the way? I said, okay, I'll show it to you. We get there, it's on the little spinny thing, that they put the cars on. And he says, oh, is that the car? I said, yeah. He said, oh, that's really cool. He goes, yeah, it's $6,500. He says, do you want it? And I literally say, yeah, I want it. He says, okay, well, then let's buy it. I said, how are we doing that? He said, well, let's bring the guy over here and see what he has to, what the numbers are, and do what we taught you, do what you've learned, work your deal. Let's see what happens. The guy comes over, he starts talking to Mitch. Mitch is going, I'm not buying the car. He is. So I said, all right. So we lay it out. He gives me a price. He walks out. I said, Mitch, how am I paying for this car? And he pulls out something and he says to me, oh, this is your Schwab stock account. Out of the 80% of the money you have paid me back, I've invested it for you the whole time.
Okay.
He said, so let's buy this car cash. I'm already paid off, he said. I've been paid off because I've invested your money, and the money we made, I took my money, I'm good. He says, you now have enough money in here that let's buy the car for cash so you have no debt. And in 2 years, we can, you're good for college.
Wow.
So we ended up making that deal on that car, and I bought a car a day before I was legal to drive it.
Wow.
Okay. Now, so we have that. Now I go into the title insurance business 4 years later. I leave college. My mother had really gotten bad with her cancer. So I left college with the idea that, Dad, I will run our one candy store and you take care of Mom at home. So I left the University of Hawaii after one semester to come home and take care of that. When all that was finished and I was done with the title business, my mother had passed away and my father took over the one store, and I went back to my brother, who was a struggling attorney, was looking for business. So he got very lucky. Someone from the money store. I don't know if the money store ever hit Canada.
Yeah, we did have them here. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a second mortgage company.
Mm-hmm.
So it was before credit lines existed. You would take a second mortgage on your house.
Yeah.
He happened to be in a strip center there. So the person from the money store walks down and says, hey, we have to have an attorney close our loan. No one showed up. They say, okay, will you close this loan? My brother says yes. He goes up and he finds a mistake on the paperwork. That happens like 3 times in a row. And they finally say to him, you're really good at this. Why don't you close our loans? That leads into the fact, well, why don't you open a title company? My brother says to me, are you done doing whatever you're doing? How about you partner with me in a title company? You do the sales and the marketing. I'll make sure the title company runs. Great. I walk up now, again, ready, fire, aim. I walk up to them 5 days into being in the title business. I know nothing. Tim, I say and it happens to be that the area manager was there and then the district manager was there. So it was from like Washington was there, Maryland was there, everybody from Trevose, Pennsylvania was there.
Yeah.
And I sit there with my brass little balls and I say, listen, I know you want to give my brother 5 deals a month, which is very nice. What I would love to know is what every other title company that you're using is giving you right now that is making you happy. So I know what my brother has to put together in order to get all your work, because we can't really live with 5. Between here and New Jersey, you have 30 offices.
Hmm.
That's what I want. Tell me what I have to do to get that. The guy from Washington literally stands up and he turns around and he says, "Why don't you go take a seat in the waiting room there?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I've been in this 5 days." So I go out there and I come back and he says, "Here's what we want. We we are going to order it. We're going to have Tim and his wife come into our office on Monday morning. When they're at our office, we're going to call you up and we want you to figure out in the courthouse exactly who owns Tim's house, the names and the address. I need you to send me that I need you to call me because fax machines were not even there yet.
Yeah.
I need you to call me, give me those names, wait 30 minutes and come up and close the loan." Great. What else? Well, we're gonna close that loan Monday before you even ordered title, so you have no idea what's even going on in the courthouse, and we're funding it Friday. So between Monday and Friday, you have to order the title, get back the mortgages and liens, figure out the payoffs, see what's actually a lien on any property, and clear all that out because we're funding it on Friday. I said, "Okay. What else?" He says, "I need you to be able to close that loan the day of application. Everyone else is doing that." Okay. I go back and I tell my brother, he goes, "Impossible, can't do it. No way, no way, no way." I said, "Brad, I just spent 5 years. I'm telling you, everything's possible."
Yeah.
So I just make a few quick calls to his searchers and I say, to one of the guys who was a Philadelphia searcher, "Let me ask you a question. How much you charge my brother?" $15. "How long does it take?" 12 days. I said, "You're making $15 every 12 days?" He says, "No, but he says, that's our time frame." I said, "What if I doubled your money? I need him back the same day or the next day. I'll double your money. I'll give you 20, I'll give you $25." He says, "I could probably do that." Long story short, I do all 5 of his things and we're giving him back. And I go a respectable 30 days and I call the guy back and say, "Can we please have another meeting? I think we've nailed it. We're good." He says, "Okay." He goes, "The guy from Washington's coming in next Thursday. We'll do a meeting. Bring your brother." I said, "Okay, great." I tell my brother and he's like, "I know you screwed this up." I know he was very opposite of I was.
Yeah.
He's a lawyer. I'm not. He goes, "I hope you didn't screw this up. I don't want to go out to work for a bank. Come on." I said, "I think it's okay." We go out to lunch and the guy from Washington turns around and he says, my brother says, "So what are we doing here?" The guy from Washington starts out, "Well, your little asshole brother walks into our place. I've been doing this 30 years. He's been doing it, what, 5 days? And he walks in and he tries to tell us that he can do exactly what every other company can do as long as we just tell him what it is." He says, "We thought he needed to learn a lesson. So we brainstormed to decide what 5 things would be nirvana for us that no one else would ever consider doing. And we gave it to him just to kick him out of our office." He did all 5 of them.
Wow.
He literally did all 5 of them. How would you like Pennsylvania and New Jersey's work? Now,
Wow.
what do I see? What do they want? They told me I didn't have to go be a magician or a Wizard of Oz. They told it to me.
Wow.
I think when you say, how did I hone those skills? I went right back to the fact of if they want it, then 60,000 people in that stadium also want it, which means that every one of the money store's competitors, Champion Mortgage, Upland Mortgage, Statewide Capital, American Business Credit, all wanted the same thing. And that's how I got from 5 deals to 1,000. 8 words. What do you see? What do they want? That's the through line of my life.
Wow. Wow. Great stories. Man. Okay, well, I'm excited to get into yours guest solo to find out a little bit more about how how your
Yeah,
business
sure.
is working. So tell me what's exciting right now in your business.
So what's exciting now is when I had thought I was retiring at 50, I had a bunch of, I went to the National Speakers Association, the NSA, and Toastmasters,
Hmm.
and I joined a club that taught stand-up comedy.
Hmm.
I had realized that the grind of trying to get on a stage as a keynote speaker was ridiculous. It was looking through air because you had to find, there was no internet
Yeah.
that had a basis. So you had to find an opportunity and then apply for an opportunity after you figured out what that opportunity was even looking for. It took 2.5 hours just to apply. And just like applying for a job, you send out 90 of them, maybe you get called back, maybe you don't. It was so brutal, Tim, that I said, I can't, I'm not doing this. So I went into consulting for a mortgage servicing company and then a sub-servicing company. I do my 10-year stint. The sub-servicing was horrible. A lot of good lessons of everything I would never do in a business. Got lucky, got on the servicing side. After 10 years, decide, you know what? I'm done again. I'm retiring again. Decide I'll go back to speaking. Tim, nothing changed. Nothing changed except the technology.
Hmm.
I said, well, what do I see? I see 1,200,000 speakers out there that are going through the same grind. And I keep using that word. It's the same grind that I walked away from 12 years ago. I am going to create a simple thing for me, a bot for me, an agent for me that can go out into the internet and find these opportunities and something that is going to then fill out my paperwork. Meaning, I wanted to say, here's what my learning objectives, takeaways, and challenges in my bio are. Here is exactly what the opportunity is looking for. Here is the perfect resume for that opportunity.
Okay.
So I can do them in 20 minutes. When I wrote a rudimentary, coded that and created that, I'm showing it to my buddies who are speakers and like, you want to speak? You're going to speak on this, right? You're going to go out and sell this. I said, no, I just bought it. I just created it for me. They said, well, give me one of those. And everybody who I spoke to said, well, give me one of those.
Yeah.
I want that, right? I want what you're doing. I said, all right, well, then I guess I'm still not going to speak because I would rather create this in
Yeah.
real terms, real times. So we are right now launched. We have built a system that literally does exactly what I had envisioned. A 100% from start to finish. And it's proactive. So what happens in our world is we're asking you for 5 things. What category do you speak on? What geography do you want to talk to? Would you go international, state, local? And then we ask you for certain pieces of information on something we patented, which we can clone the way you write. By what our video, voice, your psychometrics, meaning what is your Myers-Briggs score? What is your DISC score? What is your personality like? And then through ABC testing, we can figure out exactly how to write, which means that the answers we're giving you are as if you actually wrote them.
Wow.
So all of that took 10 months to build and rebuild and reconstruct. And the difference in this, Tim, was I was totally blind on what it actually took to open up a technology company. Everything else I opened was bricks and mortar. Well, it was pretzels, it was candy stores, it was title insurance companies. You opened it up, you had a product. Here you're inventing a product.
Yeah.
And then you have to get it out into the world. So everybody else goes on to TikTok and they go on to Instagram, and everyone has their selfie, and they're walking down the street as if they're nonchalantly talking to nobody about everything. And it's just, I said, I can't market that way. I am not a big fan of fighting in the Red Sea. I need to find a blue sea. What is it? I got lucky again because people came into my life who were speakers, and one of them was a TEDx coach.
Okay.
My last name is Freezman, so nickname was Freeze Pop. right? So, hey, free spot. What will you give me if I can basically, I coach people who pay me $7,500 to teach them how to get on a TEDx stage. I have another program that teaches different groups of people for $7,500 how to speak and grow rich. So let's say I have 100 people that now already that have paid me. I said, here's what I want to do, Frank. I want you to bring my product to them because you're their trusted advisor. They already trust you. And I will make you a partner in everything that you bring to the table. Everybody has to win. Okay. So what goes on with that is instead of me looking for Tim the speaker and Billy the speaker and Mark the speaker and Mary the, I went to who they trust the most. So my affiliate marketing plan, which is so important to me, because I learned from all these people, and then I said, well, if I'm going to learn from you, that means your people learn from you. They've already trusted you. And if you said to me, hey, this digital speaker agent, now that I taught you how to get on a stage, can actually find you the stages.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've actually taught you how to be a TEDx coach, this thing points out to where all the TEDx opportunities are, and it fills out your paperwork for you. Right? The person who, anybody that's with does anything with speakers became my client. And then they sell to their people, which again removed my grind, which removed my friction. And my grind was going out and saying to a million speakers, hey, do you want to buy this?
Yeah.
No, I would rather give your trusted advisor the ability to say to you, I know this works. I think you should buy this.
Wow. Wow. Love that.
That was, that was that. And then again, it's the through line that tails back to, we partnered with the money store. When our competition later years started to say, this is a great idea, we're going to start like taking bites out of what you're going to do, we're going to come after you to protect our kingdom. And I don't know if Canada has it, but in America, every real estate office right now owns their own title company and owns their own mortgage company.
Okay.
That was because I started that with Jack Kemp, who was the Secretary of HUD at the time in America, had said to them, when I walk into a realtor's office, they extort money from me.
Hmm.
They tell me, how much are you going to make on a title policy? $1,000. Then if you will give me $400 of that $1,000, I'll make sure my buyer knows you're alive. Otherwise, I'm giving it to another company.
Wow.
And I said, well, that I'm not doing. And I went down to Jack Kemp and actually met with him with our title underwriter. And I said, this is what's going on. And he took us off the record. He reached over, he pressed the button, he took us off the record. He said, Glenn, there are 2 million realtors in the country that vote Republican. There's only 10,000 title agents. Who do you think we're rooting for here? And he reached back over, he said, now we're back on the record. He said, tell me what your plan is. My plan is to go in partners with the realtors, go in partners with the mortgage companies. Let them put up half the money. We'll put up half the money. We'll do all the work. They can control the sale. At the end of the day, I'll split the profit with them. But it leaves their teeth in the game. It keeps it more legal and open to all your buyers and all your mortgagors, right? Why don't we just do it that way? He goes, I like that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's work on that framework. That was the framework of a controlled business arrangement, which is nothing more than a partnership. It was nothing more than what I just did with Digital Speaker Agent. That mortgage company was my affiliate. They controlled the buyer. They trusted the money store. And yeah, they could get title insurance anywhere, but no one knows what title insurance is. It's 40 years later, still no one knows what title insurance is.
I don't know what it is.
It's known as a ripoff at closing. You go there, it's another $3,000 on there. It was born out of commercial real estate where there's actual claims. The amount of claims in residential is so infinitely small that it's just I put 2 kids through college and built an entire life and got great wealth out of it. For the residential, it's not as necessary as it is sold to be.
Okay.
But the lesson being that same through line that I learned at 13 years old and showed itself in title insurance is the exact same thing I came back to again.
Wow.
How do I reduce this friction for everybody? How does everybody win? So now I say to the 10X coach, we're going to have a control business arrangement. You control your buyers. I'll do all the work. At the end of the month, I'll give you a piece of the profit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how do we find out more then?
Well, digitalspeakeragent.com
Yeah.
is our website. You can go there. All our information's there. My contact information, you want to consider this conversation, hit me up there.
Awesome.
Wide open. I did a TED talk on that, right? On giving without an expectation of a return.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible how many people in my life that I have gone back to and said, you remember what you said to me here? And they're saying, no, I have no idea. And how many people have come into my life that said, when I was 17, I remember we were and you said, and it changed my life. So I think we have to be careful with the words that we use because people do listen, and we are considered mentors.
Yeah.
Whether we know it or not. And I think it's important that the lessons that we give are the lessons you want to be remembered for if it should happen. So if you're a speaker, if you're a coach, if you're an affiliate, if you're anything that kind of fits into anybody in the speaker's world, look us up at Digital Speaker Agent. If you just want to have a cool conversation, we can have a virtual coffee. And if you're close enough, I'll meet you for dinner.
Awesome. Oh, I love that so much, Glenn. All right. So this might be the hardest question. Let's talk a little bit about music. So who's your favorite rock star?
Lifetime Springsteen.
Ah, yeah, of course.
I've seen him over 100 times. He's been, I like the energy he brought. I remember seeing it. I remember sitting in the concert the first time and looking it was at the Spectrum and looking around and saying, oh my God, like if he tells people like when he stands, they stand. When he claps, they clap. When he sings, they sing. Like this guy's got total control over this.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. So, and I grew up right in that sweet spot of his era, watching his entire career.
Yeah.
So he would be my ultimate favorite.
He's such an excellent
and then
storyteller.
music-wise, anything with steel drums.
Oh.
Because it puts me right on vacation.
Right on. Do you play any music yourself?
I do not.
You do not.
I was probably the only person ever to get thrown out of choir because I couldn't do the recorder. Remember the recorder?
Yeah.
But you couldn't screw up.
Yeah.
They gave me a recorder with the holes cut out because I couldn't do it. When I graduated from Lesh Elementary School, which was 5th grade, I was told we had to sing 3 songs, lip sync. What's nuts with that is that years later, my daughter was incredible. She had a Broadway voice. Wow. She was in every play. She was, working out. She was in plays everywhere. But I brought nothing to that table. Yeah, nothing.
Well, you had plenty of other talents.
Who's your influence?
Right. My favorite band is the Beatles.
Okay.
And that's a huge influence. And actually, when I was learning music, it was through the Beatles and actually Dave Matthews Band as well. Those were the 2 influences when I was learning.
Dave Matthews, great.
Yeah. And very, very different types of music too. But it allowed me to learn lots of different stuff because the Beatles wrote so much, many different types of music.
One of the greatest quotes, not quotes, but one of the things I remember from the Beatles was the 10,000 hour.
Oh yeah.
Very few people understand how powerful those 10,000 hours are. But the Beatles didn't understand it, either probably. No. But they were so ready to hit this ground running when they hit America.
Yep.
To explode because they were already there. Yeah. And let me give you a crazy quick analogy. I think that's why I was successful in life. I started out in 2nd grade. My defense mechanism was everything was shutting down in my life was comedy. making people laugh. Being the class clown, this is going to sound crazy. Being the class clown literally is the greatest position you can have growing up.
Yep.
Because at the end of 12th grade, we have learned how to speak to power on behalf of the powerless and learned how to listen and react in real time, constantly. We put in our 10,000 hours of public speaking by the time everyone else was ready to begin. I'm trying to get together the ability to do a TED Talk on there's no such thing as a broke class clown.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you this question. Do you happen to remember who your class clown was growing up?
Oh, geez.
Like, who's the guy who always had the funniest line and the teacher allowed it because she knew it was part of the ecosystem?
I don't, it might have been me. I don't even know because I was pretty loud in my classes.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah.
And your success, if you ask that question, everyone's going to go, you know what? It wasn't me, but it was this guy. And I said, well, what does he do for a living? Very successful.
Yeah.
We're all successful.
Yeah.
Because we learned to speak. And the analogy, and I'm not comparing myself in any way, shape, or form to the Beatles, but that 10,000 hours of what we honed our craft on.
Yeah.
Whether consciously or subconsciously, brings us to whatever 10,000 hours you put in to get to where you're at right now. There was an ability because you're great at what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always loved public speaking, and I do. Yeah. I think that's a really great topic. Just that whole class clown thing. I think you need to do it. Do it.
Yeah.
I want to watch that.
All right. I'm going to keep going. I like it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with you today, Glenn. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been great. I so appreciate you having me on. And keep every success you can have to you and everybody you love, okay?
Thanks. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast.